Tim Fort, welcome to our conversation today. Thank you for taking the time to join me.
Problem. I'm excited to meet with you, Lexi. Thanks for the invitation.
Awesome. Well, as part of the National Park Board and Show Pigs partnership, we have the opportunity to talk to wonderful guests who have a really interesting background, although they still have a very big part in the swine industry when it comes to exhibition. So, Tim, I would love to turn it over to you and have you share your background and what you do on a daily basis, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. Well, my background has been all about pigs, I think, from the start. So anyway, I currently am involved in several different projects, both in commercial production and also in show pigs. So I can kind of start from the beginning if you want, and we'll go forward from
Let's
there.
hear it.
But
That'd be awesome.
yeah. So I actually was kind of a city kid when I was little, and we moved to. My grandparents lived in White Deer, Texas, and I went there and I met a friend of mine. His name was Charles Jones, and he had a farm outside of town and had some pigs and cows, and so on the weekends we'd go out there. And I really loved animals. And anyway, my freshman year in high school, I joined FFA because I wanted to get a show pig, and I'd saved up some money that whole summer mowing grass, and I had about $125 to spend on my first show pig. So, ag teacher and I, we went into some pig sale uh, in in Pauls Valley, Oklahoma, and I bought the first pig. Uh, he was $140, so my ag teacher chipped in $15, and I bought my first pig from Harvey Richardson in Pauls Valley, Oklahoma. So anyway, that's how I got to start in pigs. And anyway, we fed him, and I won my class at the county fair, and sold him good, and I was hooked. That was the end. I loved show pigs, and I was did it quite a bit. And I can't say we had a lot of success when I was in high school because we weren't on that level really. But I continued on, and we had a breeder there, Mike Clay, which is a breeder that I think most everybody in the show pig world knows. And I worked for Mike for a while, and then whenever I went to school down at South Plains College in Loveland and started raising show pigs, and was pretty successful at it. We did quite a bit of winning and raised some good pigs and won a lot of major shows in Texas. In fact, we won all the Texas majors in about a 3 or 4 period in the early '90s in Oklahoma City, and we had a good run. And so, um, you know, I was lucky to be able to do well early, raising show pigs and breeding show pigs. And then a little bit later, life has its ups and downs and turns and so on. And I got married pretty young, and I ended up getting divorced. And when I did, we sold the farm, and I went into the commercial industry. And I worked for Murphy Family Farms for a while, which has turned into Smithfield, and everything. And then I worked at Seaboard Farms, and when they were building everything in the '90s there. And so that's where I really got my indoctrination into the commercial industry and learned a lot. And I worked with some good people there. I mean, they were building super fast, and it's one of the last huge greenfield projects that were built in the United States, and so I got to be a part of that. And then I moved up and went through my career and moved up into work for Consolidated Nutrition and was national account manager for those guys, and ran everything in the United States for them. And so it was a long, long road, in the commercial industry, and I still stayed connected on somewhat to the show pigs. But I managed to stay in the commercial industry and started working uh, overseas. That's really things really changed. It was in 2009. I was able to, you know, start working, building some farms in Russia, and I lived in Russia for 7 years. Uh, yeah, building farms there. So, so that was quite an experience, living overseas, working, building all these farms in Russia. At that time, we weren't our relationships weren't quite so contentious as they are now. But anyway, that was a great experience. It really opened up the world for me. on that. And in 2014, I started working. I had my own consulting company. We were building farms, and I was working for a lot of companies in Russia and started working in China. And so, now I have a company that is equipment, and I work with a company called Comax. I'm partners in that company, and then I have my own company there in Russia as well. So we built the biggest farms in the world now. So we build. Last week I was in China, and I was on a 10,000 sow farm, fair to finish 10,000 sows, multi-level, 4 levels, story farm, skyscraper hog farm.
Wow.
It's amazing. That thing pumps out about 5,000 pigs a week. So it's really interesting to see. And that's a project where I led the design crew, designing the farms. And it's for one of the biggest producers, a company called Winds that owns about 2 million sows. Uh, so we work with them, and that's what happens on the commercial side. On the show side, my daughters actually like to show pigs, and we got re-involved with showing pigs. When they got old enough to show, we showed a couple of years in Colorado, and then moved down to Texas. And the girls had a very successful. My twin daughters had a very successful show career there in Texas, and they graduated a couple of years ago, and we started Primo Feeds. So 2 years ago, we started Primo Feeds. So now we're involved with the Drushi family, and Hofschulte family, and Primo, and Primo's just been a huge success. So we're really excited about what's going on with Primo. So, and then I have an older daughter and a son. My daughter, she's a oncologist. She lives in Houston. She's finishing up her fellowship down there. And then my son is Taylor Fort, which everybody in the industry kind of knows. Taylor, he does all the live streams, and Taylor Fort sales, and then also like he streams San Antonio on a lot of the shows. So we're integrated into both commercial industry and into the show pig industry as well for decades now.
Awesome. Okay, I have so many questions. I think the first question I have is, where is home now? You've lived all over the place. Where do you call home now?
Well, I live in Dallas part of the time, and about half the time, and then I live also in Montenegro. So I have a home in Montenegro, where I'm not
Okay.
sure if you know where Montenegro is, but it's on the Adriatic Sea, on the Mediterranean Sea, there between Greece and Croatia, is where it is. So I live there about half the time and base out of there, and then about half the
Okay.
time I'm in the U.S.
Okay. Well, between Greece and Croatia, that sounds just awful.
Yeah, it's terrible.
No, it sounds beautiful. That'd be awesome. Wonderful.
I
Okay,
was.
next question. When you decided to shift from the show pig side to the commercial side, oh, we
Mhm.
always know that there's a lot of show pig producers that make fantastic employees for our commercial industry as well because of the hospitality, or not hospitality, excuse me, because of the skills that we learn when we are showing pigs. How did
Absolutely.
you get into the commercial side, and what was like the next step into making that your next career?
Well, I mean, I kind of fell into it because uh, it wasn't by choice, honestly. I mean, when I got divorced, and we sold the farm, and then, I got out of the show pig industry, and, and then I needed a job, so I thought, well, what do I know how to do? Well, I know how to raise pigs. So anyway, so I applied for a few places, and I got offers from all of them. And anyway, I decided to go to work with Murphy's up in Missouri. I was in Nevada, Missouri for a little while, and I had interviewed with Seaboard Farms too. And those guys were just slower to the punch, and then they came along about 6 months later, and they said, look, we're going to offer you a deal you can't pass up. So I ended up shifting over to Seaboard, and I stayed there for a while.
Okay.
Worked over at Seaboard in Guyman, Oklahoma for about 2.5 years before I went to Consolidated Nutrition. So anyway, so
Awesome.
it's just fate kind of had it in line for me to get experience in both sides of the industry.
Awesome. Okay, next question. I've heard about these skyscraper pig buildings.
Yes.
I've actually been able to sit in the room of one of the owners of them on um, through an interpreter, got to hear about, them being built and what that kind of looks like. From your perspective, give us like a walkthrough tour of what a 4-story swine building looks like.
Well, it looks like um, basically this farm had two 5,000 sow units sitting side by side. So basically, it's 1,250 sows on each level, and so it's a farrow to finish farm with farrowing, nursery, finishing all on each level, and then on the end you've got ramps where the pigs can walk down to the lower levels, kind of like you have at a sports stadium, so they can kind of walk down
Okay.
and then load out. But you've got elevators and um, that take the employees up and down, but you don't move the pigs up and down. The pigs just start, and then they do internal multiplication on those levels for genetics, and and it's just a full cycle. So it's just like a 1,250 farm, but you just stack four of them on top of each other, is what it's like. It's tunnel ventilation, so it's got the same ventilation system as a single level farm. Um,
Okay.
in China, they build them because they don't have space. I mean, it's just about
Yeah.
land and about space. And so, this particular one has a feed mill there too. So all the feed is transported on feed lines to all the feed bins, and that's mainly for biosecurity reasons because ASF, they have ASF, African swine fever in China. It's devastated the industry there. So there's been a lot of building and these kind of things. So super high biosecurity, higher than any biosecurity we use in the U.S. Honestly, I had to take
Okay.
about 5 showers. It was 5 showers before I actually got to see a pig. They took
Oh
samples,
my gosh.
swab like a COVID samples up your nose, in your mouth, test for
Really?
samples, everything. It's amazing. I mean, it took 3 hours
Oh my
to
gosh.
process into the farm. So
Wow.
so it's
Okay,
quite,
and you
quite
s-
an experience.
you said farrow to finish. Is it like top up or side to
No,
side or
they put farrow and finish on each level. So you just got one
okay,
complete farm
farm
on
on
1,250
one level.
pigs. Well, yeah, you'll have like farrowing, nursery, finishing, and then when the pigs finish, they go out the other end, down the ramps, and onto the truck. So you've
Okay.
got like four 1,250 sow farrow to finish units stacked on top of each other. That's what
Wow.
it is. Yeah.
Now this is a question I've been wondering for seriously years. Does each level have a pit? And how
Yes.
does the manure go from okay, so is it
Yeah.
like
So it's
do you
just
pump?
like a farm, normal farm. You've got a pit, but it's a shallow pit. It's about 2 feet,
Oh,
pit,
2 feet.
and
Okay.
yeah, and you have pull plugs and exactly the same thing.
Really?
It's a regular single level farm. The only difference is you've got to control the flow of the manure when you pull the pits, to make sure, to go down, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, just like in a high rise building or something, So you've got to kind of control the speed at which all that manure is going to fall down that pipe, But I
Okay.
mean, but it basically works the same as a single level farm. It's just built, on different levels. So
Okay, I have one more logistical question that has been
okay.
bothering me for quite a few years. When there is a mortality in a pig building, is
hmm
a cart and an elevator used, or how does that pig leave the
yeah,
building?
yeah. There's elevators, and so you just
Okay.
use the normal carts, and then you just go down with the elevator.
Okay.
Yep.
I've
That's how,
always
and
wondered if there was an
they have
elevator.
big elevators that take the employees up and down too. So, you know,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Very high tech. Well, thank you
All,
for
all
sharing.
the,
We
all,
don't
all,
have
all the
go ahead.
feed is moved, through, a pneumatic system, and then it's got chain disc delivery system to all the feeders. So you
Very
actually
cool. And
blow the feed through a pneumatic system.
wow.
So, and then
Is
this farm's filtered, so it's 100% filtered.
okay.
So that you don't have any contaminants coming into the farm too. So it's
Can you
very
tell
high
us
tech, very
what
high
a
tech.
filter what a filter looks like? Like what Most show pig buildings probably wouldn't be filtered. So when you're
No,
looking
no,
at a
they're not
commercial
filtered.
system,
Sure, but the filter's like a filter wall, and it has like
okay.
bio like filters like you'd use in any kind of filtered system, like a hospital or anything like that, where you're filtering the air. And then it's got a pre-filter, and then another filter, and then it's a positive pressure system, so it pushes the air in. And the reason we do that is because if you have a negative pressure system, like you have in most buildings, where you're sucking air through the building, then you're all the cracks and crannies and crevices, any kind of air opening, you'll be pulling bacteria or viruses through those as you create the negative pressure. So if you have a positive pressure building, then it pushes all the air out the cracks and keeps bacteria or viruses from coming into the barn. So yeah.
All right. And when it comes to the stacked story pig barns that we are
Mhm.
talking about, is there any outside of China?
I don't know, not that I know of. Mainly, it's China
Okay.
is where it's done. I know they may build some. They may build a few in other parts of the Far East, but I think it's just China, honestly. So that I know of. So
All right. Well, on the topic of China, I know you mentioned it, but ASF is a very devastating disease when it comes to the swine industry, and China has seen it firsthand. Here in the United States, knock on wood, we've been wanting to continue to keep it out. It would be a very big impact here in the States. What has the industry in China learned from ASF, and how do you manage it?
well, it's very difficult to manage, honestly, and actually, I got my first experience with African swine fever working in Russia because it was in Russia first.
Yeah.
It came up through from Africa on a ship to Georgia, and then it got off the ship in Georgia through some trash that was on there, and somebody fed garbage to some pigs, and then it got into the wild pig population in the forest between Georgia and Russia, and then it traveled up through southern Russia, and then it traveled to Europe, over to Belgium, and eventually over to China by 2017. So you know, nobody's been able to stop the spread of it. The only thing that stopped the spread at this point has been oceans, and so because it's moving in the wild pig population, so I really hope that it doesn't get to the Americas, because it's not in North America or South America, because it's very devastating, and I've been part of the ASF scene for a long time, since 2009, and the Russians handle it different than the Chinese handle it, but neither one of them got it managed, so or eradicated or pushed out. And in Russia, they have a policy that they call "stamp it out" policy. So basically, they depopulate the units and kill all the inventory, uh, and that's the way that they deal with it. They create zones where where they take out all the inventory of all the pigs, whether it be commercial or 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 backyard pigs or whatever it is. In China, they don't do that. They treat it a little bit more like they do foot and mouth disease, and they try to do internal, processes of like test and removal, and some of those. It kind of delays it, but the problem is you have more virus floating around, and so
Gotcha.
um, so, but it's endemic everywhere, in China. So these new units, so what they've done is they've taken a lot of the production out of the backyards, and then they started building these new super modern farms with super high biosecurity, with filter systems and so on to keep the, to make sure that they've got pork. I mean, half the pigs in the world live in China, so that's the real statistics. So half of the pigs in the world are in China. They eat more pork than anybody. I think maybe Germany eats more per capita, but they eat a lot of pork in China. So, and there's a lot of people. So you know they had a really big problem that created some kind of national safety issue or national safety concerns, with the food source. So when it happened. So it was devastating to the industry. And now they've populated back, and they've got plenty of pork, and price is decent, and everything. But it's very devastating, and you need to be very careful. Coming to the U.S. Or things coming into the U.S. And as you've seen, if you travel outside the country, you'll see
Yes.
that it's really uh, customs officials are trying to uh, you know protect our swine industry, but people need to be very aware. So
Yeah, I thought I actually will give props to, I believe, some government. I don't know whether it be USDA or who, but I've been actually impressed with the signage, specifically in the Des Moines airport, which makes a lot of sense. I know
yeah,
Iowa Port
sure.
has there's a lot of signage and a lot of reminders, and I guess this is a reminder to our audiences as when you come back from vacation and maybe you saw, a pig and on a beach or whatnot, wherever that where you were coming from, it's
In the
really
Bahamas.
easy to yeah, yeah. Goals. But it's really easy to put on your customs form, no, I wasn't on a farm, or um you just want to get through customs as fast as you can. But when it comes to testing your shoes or taking proper biosecurity measures, make sure that you are extremely, extremely proactive when it
Yeah.
comes to that. Mm.
The thing that people need to understand, and I think a lot of people don't understand, is that you know uh, African swine fever lives in the meat, and
Okay.
so if you have a pork product and another pig eats that pork product, like
Yes.
a piece of whatever, ham or anything. If it's been heat treated or processed, it's probably not. But anyway, the point is that it lives in the pork meat, and it'll live for like 40 days or something. So I mean, if it's not rotten, it can live in it, right? And so you know that's the thing where people really make a mistake is they transport meat products, you know,
Yes.
and that's what you need to be very careful of. Of course, it can be on your boots or shoes or something like that, but most people aren't coming on the plane with crappy shoes, or something, but
Manure. Yeah.
and things like that. So I don't think that's as huge a problem. What we get concerned about is people coming from China bringing food products, with
Absolutely.
pork containing food products, and then those getting discarded and people garbage feeding pigs. That's how it got from Africa to Georgia. Was
Okay.
some garbage feeding.
Well,
Now
and
we don't have a lot of garbage feeding in the United States, which is good, and so
yeah,
that probably helped us too because it could have come on a cruise ship or it could have come on something like that,
right.
but
But
or a
correct
freighter.
me if I'm correct me if I'm wrong. The state of Minnesota, I think, can garbage feed if you have a specific license. Like in the
Yeah,
state of Iowa, where I'm at, it's not legal. But
yeah.
I think it's, and from a sustainability standpoint, sure. Like they have a lot of trash, but from a uh it's
Well,
scary,
I
honestly,
think
from
I
a health
think I
standpoint.
think I think it's how you quantify garbage feeding and what you call garbage. I
Okay.
mean, there's waste products that are coming that we do feed in the industry, like cookie meal and things like that. But
Okay.
but what I'm talking about is people that are actually like feeding garbage like something and I don't think that happens much in the United States, to be honest with you. Not like a lot of
Perfect.
third world countries. So that helps
Okay.
a bit, but we need to be careful.
Yep.
I mean, World Pork Expo, for example, they split
Yeah.
it a few years ago, and put it on different weeks, and they moved it completely, so it's back going again. I know there's some talk about being back in Des Moines. I don't know when the dates are going to be and things like that, but you know, um, but there's some risk, but ASF is a big virus. It's it's not the easiest one to transmit. You can't transmit it through air, so it has to be through, meat or nose to nose contact or something like that.
Okay.
So it's not so easy to transmit, but on the other hand, it lives a long time, because it's a big virus and it has quite a bit of protection. So, it can live it can live in water cool water or something for a long period of time. So so anyway, people need to be conscious of it. People need to be careful, and God bless us that it doesn't come to the U.S. because it's devastating. It's really devastating. So, and it would be terrible for the show pig industry.
Yeah,
Absolutely terrible. Because I mean, they would stop if it comes to the U.S. They'll probably stop like transporting across state lines, all these kind of things, which would be devastating to the show pig industry. So, and the show pig industry is near and dear to my heart. So, I sure don't want to see anything happen there because it's really helping a lot of young people.
absolutely. Well, we will go to a lighter topic, but
Okay.
thank you for reminding us the biosecurity practices that we should be following, and everyone
Cool.
can do their part to help this. So, I guess, Tim, you have shared a vast array of your experiences, and your story is super inspiring. When it comes to young people in the industry, I know you still have involvement with them. What are some pieces of advice that you want to share with young showmen?
Well, I think number one is you know showing pigs is a very good uh, example of um, what life is going to be like. So I call it kind of a example. You get to play life with a safety net because your parents or your mentors or your leaders are providing you with some safety net. But pig shows are a bit like real life, So it gets kids prepared for real life. I mean, it's tough. It's hard to win, and you lose more than you win. We all know you lose more
Yep.
than you win. Life, it's a bit that way too, You've got to take your wins when you get them, and you've got to get back up from your losses. I mean, if you go to the jackpot this weekend and you really thought you were going to do good, you landed fifth and you or sixth, you're a little disappointed, and the judge wasn't too kind to you, you still got to get back up and go out there and work because the next weekend, you may win the show. You never know how it's going to go. You have to fight people that have more resources than you have, which is what we do in real life. And you have to fight sometimes political issues that are the same as what you have to fight in real life. So it mimics life in a real way. So I think the advantage that our kids get is that they get to do that with a safety net. So it really prepares you for real life. So when you get into college and work and all those things, and you face the same kind of challenges, you've developed a work ethic, you've developed some responsibility, and you've learned how to fail and get back up and try again. And this is in life is the most important thing is don't stop and don't quit.
Mhm. I love that. I actually think of that a lot. And I am now raising a son. He's 16 months old. So we have a little bit to go to the show ring. But actually, I think that is one of the most valuable things I'm looking forward to because as a parent, you want to protect them from everything. And, I can't imagine. I need all your tips, right? Raising four kids. But I think that's something that I'm looking forward to having this show ring teach my kids is you actually do lose a lot more than you win. So, uh, Tim, I think that statement is true. Oh, yes. Yeah, I love that. Awesome. Yep. 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 Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, is there anything else that you would like to leave us with as we wrap up this interview? Wow. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It has been an absolute honor getting to pick your brain, really, and learn all the things that you have done on the commercial and show side. So, thank you, Tim, and we will likely see you at a show down the road.